What's going on, YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're going to talk about Justice League, the Omega Act Special. This is the prelude to the DC KO event. Now, before going into it, I actually thought KO stood for knockout, which it generally does, but it actually kind of means King Omega. I kind of realized that as I was reading this. I'm like, okay, that's kind of a neat way to kind of double meaning it a little bit. But this is a pretty solid issue if you kind of want a recap of what's been going on. It breaks everything down, sets the stage very nicely for the DC KO event. Like, okay, this is what happened recently. This is what's going on in other books. So, like, if you want to know about the DC KO event, want a good recap, just kind of a way to kind of jump into it, this is a good means to do so. And we also get a bit of an interesting reveal about Doomsday, at least to my knowledge, unless I'm missing something, and that Doomsday was actually created to be a weapon used against Darkseid in the ancient Kryptonian times, I suppose. So that was kind of a neat reveal to me. I didn't realize that going into it, unless that's a new thing altogether. I don't know, there's so many comics over so many years, for all I know, it could have already been something. But we flash back to Krypton years before its destruction. We see Laura, and we also see Ursa, obviously General Zod and Jor-El stuff, it seems. They're investigating ancient kind of Kryptonian like wreckage or like some what do you call those, like catacombs of sorts, and they come across something with the Omega symbol. We also see Time Trapper, basically kind of recaps what's going on and everything, how Darkseid basically like was kind of sort of killed in a way, and his energy got spread throughout different aspects of the multiverse and through time as Omega energy, and that's where we created the Absolute Universe and such. And we have Booster Gold, who's just been rescued. If you want to know more about that, you can check out some of my Superman stuff. He was taken there. He believes that there's a chance to save this world. Time Trapper Doomsday is a little hesitant about the whole thing, and he wants to show him some stuff, but then Flash kind of follows suit, and then we see the Legion of Darkseid going through different eras of time and destroying everything in their path to just make way for Darkseid in that too. So they do manage to find them. Of course, we also find the whole King Omega thing and then this weird, crazy heart-looking artifact right there. So I'm sure that'll tie into Darkseid in some capacity used to kind of defeat him in some way. Booster Gold almost gets taken down, but he seems to have some sort of like power source within him, the Omega energy, which he uses to fend off the Legion of Darkseid, and this changes Time Trapper's opinion on, okay, maybe we actually do have a shot, but we're going to need to utilize your help, Booster Gold. They end up back at the presence. He also reveals the fact that he was created as a weapon to use against Darkseid, but maybe not in his control, but somebody will be used to kind of point him against that stuff. And he goes there, talks to Superman, and he's like, we're going to need a champion, an absolute champion, used to go toe-to-toe with Darkseid once and for all. That's the big tournament where heroes and villains, I guess, will be facing off against each other in the DCKO event. Now, DCKO issue number 1 releases next week, and again, this is a pretty good, solid recap. Joshua Williamson was the writer in there. I liked how they worked in various aspects of the DC lore and history. The artwork is pretty solid for the most part, and it's a good prelude to set up the KO event. So if you've not been following everything, it's like, okay, this is just a little recap of what's been going on. So I think this is a pretty solid read to kind of get you invested. And if you haven't been necessarily reading all sorts of different titles that DC has kind of thrown out there for the past year or so, because I don't read everything. I read a good amount of stuff, but it's expensive, and it's just hard to keep up with all the different titles going on, especially when it comes to events. But there seems to be more hype for this event than there has other events in recent memory. I think because DC's actually been doing pretty decent, especially with the whole Absolute titles selling very well. So hopefully they can continue that momentum into a good event, because we haven't had a really solid event. I want to say the last event that I genuinely liked was the first Dark Knight's Metal. It wasn't perfect, but it was still a fun event. And that's before they ran the whole Batman Who Laughs concept into the ground. But that was nearly like 10 years ago. Like that was like 2017, 2018. And then afterwards, we were still in a good place for DC, and then they had Justice League No Justice, and then that went to like the downward spiral of DC for several years up until the Infinite Frontier kind of phase where they're like, okay, we've really damaged the brand. Let's try and bring it back up. And it feels like they've kind of done that a lot in recent memory. In terms of like DC as a whole, not everything's perfect, but really the phase of like 2018 was like they had a really solid relaunch with Rebirth, and then it just kind of went to shit like a year or two after that, and they had to take a few years to really start to recover. It took about a good 3 to 4 years to really start to change things around again and get the good word of mouth again. So hopefully they can deliver a really satisfying event with this thing. So like I said, I enjoyed this thing. Good recap, set the stage for things, and we're ready to go into DCKO. And I'm hoping DCKO is good, because if anyone who's watched my videos the past few years knows how event fatigued I was at DC, because they just weren't very good. And especially after Night Terrors, where I read every issue in it, and 95% of them were completely irrelevant and did absolutely nothing, that I'm just like, what was the point of this? This is just a big waste of time and money for just mediocrity. So, and then that's afterward they did Beast World. I'm not going to read everything. And then they did Absolute Power, which wasn't all that great to begin with. And they had Lazarus Planet. They had so many events that just weren't that good. And then they had crossovers that just weren't very good. I mean, we did, what was it, Gotham War? Ugh, what a stinky pile of crap. But I'm hopeful for DCKO. I think this is the one event that they're going to actually deliver something hopefully pretty solid, especially to get the little tournament stuff going on there. I'm sure some fans won't be happy with different results, but we shall see. All right, well, that's all I have to say about this particular issue. What did you think of it? Post your comments down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications, all that other fun stuff. I will be back again later on this week with some more stuff. So, all caught up for DC stuff. Look forward to all the comic books I'll be covering this week, and happy October. So, peace out, everyone.